Good day, everyone. I am Maria Crizel Naisa Estañedo, and I will be presenting my thesis proposal entitled Assessing Knowledge, Attitude, and Practices, or CAP, on Natural Disaster Preparedness of Farmers and Mangyan Households at BACO Oriental, Mindoro, a basis for an ACSM plan. For this one, we will be discussing and I will be sharing to you about the introduction, research problem, objectives of the study, theoretical framework, conceptual framework, the research design, and the respondents or participants of the study, and the research instruments to be used in this study. So to begin with, I would like to give you some introduction, rationale, and background about the locality and municipality of BACO Oriental, Mindoro, and also about the natural disaster experienced by the municipality for the past years. So we all know that for the past years, the Philippines have experienced various natural disasters such as typhoons, flood, and landslides, which vary in different regions and areas of the country. These disasters caused the Filipino people to be physically, emotionally, mentally, and most of all, economically affected, which hindered them to reach their full potential for personal and community development. So disaster preparedness is a must to reduce damages during natural disasters. It refers to measures taken to prepare for and reduce the effects of disasters. That is, to predict and, where possible, prevent disasters, mitigate their impact on vulnerable populations, and respond to and effectively cope with their consequences. The people's knowledge, attitude, and practices about natural disaster itself and natural disaster preparedness may have a great impact in the possible end results and extent of the effects of natural disasters in their lives. The municipality of BACO Oriental, Mindoro is a third-class municipality which is frequently visited by typhoons resulting to natural disasters like flood and landslide or flash floods. In the municipality of BACO, there are two major natural disasters experienced by the people and by the community. These are flood and landslide, and they are considered as the two primary and most common threats and natural disaster being experienced by the people in the municipality of BACO. The municipality also is annually visited by typhoons, causing flood and resulting to various damages in the lives of the Bacoeños, public and private investments, agricultural production, livelihood projects, institutions, and infrastructure facilities. To give you some of the damages caused and brought by various natural disasters. In 2006, Typhoon Kaloy and Riming hit the northern part of Oriental Mindoro, and the municipality of BACO was greatly affected by flood caused by that typhoon. Also, in December 2015, Typhoon Nona caused 90% of the municipality to be flooded. It was then followed by Typhoon Nina, Typhoon Urduha, and Typhoon Usman in 2016, 2017, and 2018, respectively, with the same results as well. So in December 2015, under Typhoon Nona, a total number of 11,627 families and 3,812 houses were damaged. 366 evacuees were reportedly affected by flood caused by Typhoon Nona. There were also 4 casualties recorded during the event, and a state of calamity was declared in the municipality. BACO is also a home to indigenous peoples who are the Mangyans. And of course, the municipality's primary economic activity of the people is on agriculture. Agriculture is the primary economic activity of the people, and most of the Bacoeños are involved into farming and fishing. In agriculture, a total damage of 81,430,020 pesos was caused by Typhoon Nona, and while 126,597,000 pesos and 17,089,826.75 pesos total damages were also reported in 2016 and 2017 due to flooding caused by Typhoon Nina and Typhoon Urduha. These results or damages caused by the typhoon and natural disasters hinder the people to reach their maximum potential for economic development, which also affects the municipality's overall economic status or development. So, we now go to the indigenous peoples who are the Mangyans. So, the municipality of BACO is also a home to indigenous peoples and natives of the province who are the Mangyans with a total population of 5,885 based on the 2014 Community-Based Monitoring System or the CBMS survey. And as mentioned also in the municipality's ecological profile in 2018, based on the assessment of the Department of Social Welfare and Development, majority of the households in the indigenous peoples groups are considered as poor. Most of the houses of the Mangyans are small and made of light materials like bamboo and nipa, which makes them more vulnerable to different natural hazards or natural disasters. Most of the Mangyans also reside at 5 barangays of the municipality of BACO, and these are upland areas. They are also prone to landslide and flash floods. And also, Mangyans are susceptible to flood in terms of its effects to their livelihood, having agriculture as also their primary occupation and source of income. And in 2015, it was recorded, 2015 was the year when Typhoon Nona happened. It was recorded that 35.15% of the IP community or IP population was displaced because of Typhoon Nona, which greatly devastated the municipality. Now, what is the role of communication? Communication plays an important role in disaster preparedness. Information, communication, and education campaigns and other information dissemination strategies are needed to apprise the community about the appropriate actions to take for disaster preparedness. In the municipality of BACO, there are also various IEC initiatives done by the local government, but its impact really influences the community's knowledge, attitude, and practices towards natural disaster preparedness should be checked and considered. How effective are those IEC materials? Through proper communication strategy, natural disaster preparedness will be captured by the community and will help reduce and mitigate its negative effects to the community. So, to avoid these scenarios among the respondents and the community, there is a need for having an advocacy, communication, and social mobilization campaign or the ACSM, which will help fill in the gaps for natural disaster risk reduction. It can be done through assessing the knowledge, attitude, and practices or CAP for disaster preparedness of farmers and Mangyan households at BACO Oriental, Mindoro. CAP assessment will help the researcher identify the current thoughts, attitude, and practices of the respondents about natural disaster preparedness, which can be a basis and reference to identify appropriate or the proper advocacy, communication, and social mobilization plan for the community. Now we go to the research problem. So, this study aims to determine the knowledge, attitude, and practices, or CAP, on natural disaster preparedness of farmers and Mangyan households at BACO Oriental, Mindoro, and at the end, we would come up with an ACSM plan for disaster preparedness. Specifically, it will answer the following questions. 1. What is the socio-demographic profile of the respondents. Second, how do the respondents view natural disaster preparedness in terms of their knowledge, attitude, and practices? The third one would be, what are the communication gaps on natural disaster preparedness based on the results of the CAP assessment? 4. What are the local government's communication-related initiatives to ensure the respondents' preparedness on natural disasters? And finally, what advocacy, communication, and social mobilization plan could be done to appropriately communicate disaster preparedness to the respondents? The objectives of the study: first is to know the level of awareness and knowledge of the respondents about natural disaster preparedness. Next is to determine their responses to natural disasters and its effects. The third one is to determine their practices and preparations to mitigate the effects of natural disasters. Identify the communication gaps on natural disaster preparedness based on the results of the CAP assessment. And lastly, identify appropriate advocacy, communication, and social mobilization plan for natural disaster preparedness based on the CAP assessment. Now we go to the theoretical framework. So this study will be based on the phenomenological theory of communication, which was proposed by Edmund Husserl. As defined, phenomenology is the philosophical tradition that seeks to understand the world through directly experienced phenomena. In social sciences such as communication studies, phenomenological theorizing and research studies seek empirical data gathered by using various methods in order to understand concrete social phenomena. That was according to Little John in 2009. Also, this theory will be used in the study since it will focus on assessing the respondents' knowledge, attitude, and practices on natural disaster preparedness. Meaning to say, we will this study will also discuss and know or identify the experiences of our respondents when it comes to natural disaster and, of course, a natural disaster preparedness. Now we go to the conceptual framework. The study will focus on the assessment of the knowledge, attitude, and practices or CAP on disaster preparedness of selected farmers and MANGYAN households at BACO, ORIENTAL, MINDORO, and come up with appropriate communication approaches and strategies through a ACSM plan based on the assessment. So, in this study, I used the IPO, or the Input Process Output conceptual paradigm of the study. As we can see, in figure 1, or in this figure, it describes the conceptual framework of the study using the Input Process Output, or IPO model, wherein the input will be consisting of the following. First is the socio-demographic profile of the respondents. Then next, under the socio-demographic profile, we will be collecting or getting the age, sex, and educational attainment and the monthly income of the respondents. The next one is the knowledge, attitude, practices, or CAP on disaster preparedness of the respondents in terms of typhoon, flood, landslide, and flash floods. And finally, the LGU's communication-related initiatives and programs on natural disaster preparedness. For the process, we will be doing, the researcher will be doing focus group discussions, and will be using secondary data from the local government unit and its concerned offices. And for the output, the researcher will be having the advocacy, communication, and social mobilization plan for disaster prepared. For the research design of the study, it will be a descriptive research design, and we'll use the qualitative approach in data gathering for the study. And also, the respondents of the study will be the farmers, focusing on the agricultural side or agricultural part of the study, and the MANGYAN households being one of those vulnerable population and community in the municipality when it comes to natural disaster. So for the farmers, the farmer respondents will be coming from barangays with the highest exposure percentage of being at risk to flood based on the climate disaster risk assessment or CDR. The farmers will be composed of 10 participants for every barangay, and these 10 will be 5 males and 5 females. Now for the MANGYAN respondents, respondents of the MANGYAN households will be from 5 MANGYAN communities of the municipality, and they will be composed of 3 groups for each barangay, household heads, senior citizens, and children, with 5 members each group, which means that there will be a total of 15 respondents for each barangay. Now for the research instruments, the researcher will be using focus group discussion guides, different FGD guides for the farmers, and another one for the MANGYAN household respondents, and different FGD guides as well for the household heads, senior citizens, and the children. And also, the researcher will be using the audio recorder, which will help her in interpreting and analyzing the data, so that during the conduct of the FGD or the interview, the researcher will be able to record the interview, and finally will be able to transcribe the interview for further analysis and interpretation of the data gathered. So thank you, and that would be all about my thesis proposal entitled the Assessing Knowledge, Attitude, and Practices on Natural Disaster Preparedness of Farmers and MANGYAN Households at BACO Oriental, Mindoro, a basis for an ACSM plan. Thank you, and may God bless us all.